That's good.
I don't want that.
Good.
I don't want that committed to
just nowhere. No.
It's all evidence.
Yeah, no.
Like how people think of like everything is content. I think of like everything is evidence. Don't talk. Stay off the ground.
That's a good point. That is a good philosophy.
Autobots, transform and roll out.
Mike. So many Mike. So many Mike. So many Mike. So many Mike.
Well, hey there, folks. Welcome back for another thrilling episode of Two Mikes, Two Furious Animated Transformers. This is the podcast where two Mikes talk about Transformers Animated one episode at a time. My name is Mike Seibert. I have never watched Transformers Animated before this project, and guiding me along on this journey is the other titular Mike. It's Michael Andrews.
Hey, hello. Yes, I'm the guru of watching old episodes of cartoons from 2007. So here I am.
A serial rewatcher. And sometimes with actual cereal, Saturday morning cartoon style. That's a lot of fun. You know, and that reminds me, I don't even know why I didn't think of this until now. So, like, I didn't watch TFA when it first aired from, what was it, like 2008 to 2009 or some such like that. When did it air? Was it on at like nighttime? I guess in a sense, I mean, I'm not making a joke. I'm wondering, it's like, was there ever a time it was on like Saturday morning? Because I don't think Saturday morning cartoons, as we know them now, aren't really a thing. It's kind of like entertainment information stuff. Anytime you turn on a show on network television on Saturday morning and you see like that E/I, turn it off. Done.
Right.
Nothing good there.
Well, I can tell you from firsthand experience, I know that the Pilot Up movie aired like prime time. I think it was like a Friday night or something, because I had my friends over for a little viewing party. It was definitely after hours. But the show, I don't know the airing schedule exactly, but I know it definitely did air some Saturday mornings, because there's sort of an infamous picture of me that my girlfriend at the time took. She took a picture of me watching Transformers Animated. I'll try to find the picture because it's kind of nice little throwback, but me watching the show and with a caption of like, this is why we're going to be late for the science museum or something like that. Because I was like, hold on, we can't go yet. Or he loves Transformers more than me. Like, yeah, I'll find that picture.
That's awesome. I love that.
And then we'll try to dissect what episode is actually airing on the screen. That'll be the game. Yeah, I still haven't figured it out yet, but
that would be a good game. So it's probably not this one, episode 6, Blast from the Past. And my goodness, I mean, like there's going to be so much to unpack here. I mean, this is I don't want to stick my neck out too far, but this is probably my favorite episode of the run that I've seen so far. I really enjoyed this episode, but we can kind of uncork that as we go, because one of the cool gimmicks about our podcast is like, I'm experiencing this for the first time. I literally watched this episode last night before we recorded, so it's very fresh in mind, and I'm really eager to talk about it.
Yeah, it's really fun. But before we jump into it, Mike, I just wanted to, we've been talking about TFCon and stuff like that. TFCon is in the air, if you will.
Sure.
So it reminded me, because I had some Transformers memories. We were talking a little bit offline that the very first Transformers TFCon that I went to was very, for me personally, Transformers Animated themed, because I specifically went there with the goal of finding a Sentinel Prime from that show. Yeah. But I did on the last day, I got this weird thing, because I was trying to buy a TF Animated Wreck-Gar. And the seller wouldn't budge on the price. And I was like, come on, it's Sunday. It's like wheeling and dealing.
It's like, do you want to take it home or do you want to sell it?
That's right. I go full swindle on Sundays at TF.
Yeah.
But so he wouldn't budge on the price. And I was like, okay, I'll take it as long as you throw in this. And I know this is like, it's a podcast, so this show and tell isn't a great thing. But this is like weird.
This?
You can post pictures of it too, but it's like this weird big box full of Transformers Animated themed board games.
Oh my
and it's
gosh.
a very like fancy luxury opening box that has like little drawers and stuff that pull out. and then up top you get the PVC of the characters. And
they're little figurines.
Yeah, and they become like the pieces for the board game that you play. But they're also just really cool, detailed miniatures. The paint apps on them are really cool. I never saw this for sale in stores, but I used to have a background in fancy packaging. For a fancy packaging company, and I can tell you this box is pretty high end.
That is, I mean, it
looks like Optimus.
It's got a nice glossy sheen. So yeah, the front of it is the iconic vehicle mode of Optimus Prime's cab over truck, and it's got these flip out panels. Very, very cool. Very, very glossy and very nice presentation.
And Velcro tabs. That's the sign of high elegance.
That's really, really cool. That's
cool. And I just like it because they don't really make tie-in stuff like back in the day, it's just anything that came out, it was like slap it on a lunchbox, slap it on a board game, slap it on everything possible.
Yeah, napkins.
And I think that's what drew me to this, because it was like, this is just like a great throwback to another time of put whatever on a board game.
Yeah. Very, very cool. Is the game any good?
It's very simple, and it's sort of maybe a slightly upgraded Candyland. It's very roll a dice, go to do a thing, but it's fun.
Nice. I dig it.
Speaking of actually one more little thing. Speaking of Transformers animated board games, we're going to be often referencing the Transformers Allspark Almanac, but in the middle of the book, this thing's just full of random stuff. It's not I wouldn't say it's a carefully curated mix. It's kind of just very random stuff, but in the best way possible. They're throwing in cocktail napkin sketches of stuff, and in the middle of the book, when you open it up, it's they made a board game. I don't know if they made it just for this book, but it's just a random board game in the middle of it.
That's pretty awesome. Cool. So can we talk about that book for just a hot sec? Because I made the mistake on a previous episode of thinking that the TFA DVDs were rare or hard to come by or whatever. I don't remember where I got that notion. A couple folks have since corrected me on that. But if I'm not mistaken, this book, the one you have, is kind of rare and hard to come by, right?
Yeah, at least it was when I got it, which was actually only a few years ago. It was kind of tough to find, but I think they have it now on you can get it on Comixology or the Kindle Comics app. You can get it in its 2 parts. It might even be free for Comixology readers.
Oh, nice. Sweet.
Oh yeah, here, I'll just hold it up for you. This is the board game insert here.
Oh, look at that.
And it's pretty advanced. There's leveling up features and stuff like that. They kind of put a lot of thought into it to just be a 2-page spread in an almanac.
So you're telling me the board game insert in the Allspark Almanac is a better board game than the Transformers animated board game?
That's correct. Yes.
Very cool. I just wanted to make sure I got that. Very cool. Well, thank you for sharing that, and I'm sure we will refer back to that tome, that iconic document, several times more as we go through. So for today's episode, and again, it's a big one. It is definitely a big one. We are talking about episode 6, Blast from the Past, which originally aired on January 12th of 2008, according to TF Wiki, which now that I'm piecing this together, that is before episode 5, Total Meltdown. I didn't really piece that together until just now, but I know we've retired numbers legislation, but I wonder if
just after I wrote a jingle for that bit too. How unfair.
But I wonder if it's worth looking at when these episodes actually aired.
Yeah, that's interesting. I guess we're going by the to-be viewing order. So
correct. Yeah.
Whatever happens, we're going by that.
And I think that's how it's in order on all the DVDs and everywhere else. So, and it is interesting because now that's a needle or a thorn that's going to be stuck in the back of my mind as we go through some of these episodes of how connected they actually are. Because I would say this episode here, episode 6, it kind of lives on its own. It's pretty self-contained, whereas, but also not really, because you would have to have seen episode
for Home is Where the Spark Is to understand what's going on in this episode. Whereas episode 5, Total Meltdown, feels more self-contained in that, like, they can move it around a little bit. I mean, like, there's some basic tropey stuff, like Bumblebee being obnoxious, Prowl being a dick, and, kind of like the ongoing burgeoning relationship and friendship between Prowl and Bulkhead. Like you see their increments in their dynamic as each episode goes. I wonder how that could get tossed around if you start looking at these in air date order. Because I mean, I'm going way beyond the brief here, but like, one of the things I had said in our last episode about Total Meltdown is like, you get like back to back Bumblebee being a little shit. So it's, if you flop the order of these, does that have that same impact, or does it have more impact where it's like, God damn it, Bumblebee's back on his nonsense, that kind of stuff. But
next season, when we drop the 2 Mike 2 Furious streaming app, we'll have the 2B viewing order lineup, and then the chronological
the machete episode order of how to watch TFA. My gosh.
Another thing I wanted to say just before we drop into the episode proper, this episode was written by Kevin Hops, and I wanted to mention that because if you dig way back into his IMDb writing credits, one of the things he wrote was an episode of Small Wonder. And last episode we were talking about Small Wonder and Out of This World. So this is a kind of an old school writer. He also worked on that show.
Interesting.
Another robot show.
See, ironically enough, and I was too shy to say this in the previous episode when we were talking about Small Wonder and Out of This World, but I definitely had a age appropriate crush on the robot Vicky. I can admit that now.
Oh yeah. Did anybody big play that robot? Is it like a big time actress now or anything?
I don't know. Let me take a look. See here. I don't remember off the top of my head. Let's see.
Tiffany Michelle Brissett.
Yeah.
I would say that's not a household name anymore.
No. Oh no. And I just came across a photo of adult Tiffany Brissett in a contemporary take on the Vicky costume, and I need to close that window because it searches me. No,
on your work computer.
It's just she's just an adult now. I'm just like, oh, you know what? Oh. Still quite attractive. Moving on.
Welcome to Dino Drive. Let's just jump right into
exactly. Yeah. So Dino Drive, it's this, kind of like take on Jurassic Park type of thing. It's this dinosaur theme park type of thing. And this feels like a weird, I don't know, almost like a slice of life type of thing where it's just like, well, the Autobots are just gonna go to the Dino Drive and just have like a day at the park. It starts off pretty benign in terms of like the initial setup, but things go awry very quickly because Bulkhead, and this is I get a feeling going to be a theme throughout the entire episode, manages to wreck every car in his wake. In fact, what was it like? Oh, he's running late. And he's like, sorry, I'm late. Did I miss anything? And it's like,
Bumblebee goes, you managed to hit everyone. That's such a good line.
Did I miss anything?
No. I'd say you hit just about every car in the lot.
See, and I do. I mean, again, Bumblebee is a Dennis the Menace style little shit, but I do like these zingers that.
That line in particular was delivered very deadpan. It was kind of like un-Bumblebee like. It was more like The Office or something. I really liked how it was kind of shot out there.
It would almost be like something like Prowl would say.
Yeah, really dry and.
Yeah, because like in the last episode, it's like, oh yeah, and oh, he's short just like his fuse.
Right.
Just real. Just again, I'm still beaming by that high five. Just like that, they're both looking ahead and just high five each other. That's so cool.
Yeah. Well, right. And this Dino Drive that they're at, it is straight out of Jurassic Park. Like if Total Meltdown was hinting at RoboCop, this episode is screaming Jurassic Park. It's got the giant gates. It's got the layout. It's even got the score. Did you catch that? Like, the score is very Jurassic Park.
I was gonna say that there's definitely little bits, and I like that it's off tune just enough to avoid any how shall we say, legal entanglements.
Right.
But it is definitely evocative. So yeah, so they kind of run into this this tutor robot who is is basically like Clippy or whatever, or is what is Dino DNA? You know, the
oh yeah. Mr. DNA.
Mr. DNA, that's right, from Jurassic Park. And it kind of, I mean, it's nowhere close to saying, like the same type of character, but it kind of fulfills the same kind of role where it's the character is apparently called Tutor Bot, but he may as well be called Exposition Bot, because like he's talking about the dinosaur times and. It talks about like the dinosaurs and the robots and
fossil fuels, and it's playing a little cartoon that's like, very much like Mr. DNA, like turning it into a little, like 50s film reel kind of.
Yeah, which is kind of factually inaccurate, but I'm not a scientist. I don't think it's 1-to-1 dinosaur bones to gas. It's like, right. I don't think it quite works that way, but it's educational enough for a children's program. But that is interesting, and this is kind of like the another instance of Transformers, the Autobots, being exposed to fossil fuels and fueling, and that whole perspective of like, oh, cars need dinosaur juice to go. That kind of thing. It's still kind of like a new concept for them.
Right. Yeah. And even though this is sort of exposition from Exposition Bot, as you said, I do think, one of the good things is about the writing of this show. It actually becomes a plot point. This little bit of exposition actually becomes kind of a big plot point later in the episode. So they did find a way to use it, not just info dump.
Yeah. And again, the economics of the storytelling here, nothing gets wasted. It's like almost everything that gets seeded early on in these episodes across the series, from what I've seen so far, it always comes back around. And I wonder, maybe this is like a secret spoiler, future spoiler situation. And I wonder if there's going to be a time where I'm expecting it and it lets me down, where it's like, oh man, so like getting so coked up on all of these payoffs. I wonder if there's a time where the writing's going to let me down. It's like, oh man, I was really hoping that was going to be something, because now I've seen it so many times to where it'll be interesting to see how that goes.
Well, Mike, in the writing world, we don't say letting you down. We say subverting expectations.
God damn
that's what we're going to be doing.
Okay. Very good. So, speaking of expectations and subverting expectations, the tutor bot, the exposition bot, has no patience for the dinosaur, saying like, as awesome as the dinosaurs are, they are no match for the XL4 processor.
A dinosaur would be no mental match for an XL4 processor such as mine.
Right. Well, yeah, you can kind of tell this is probably a Sumdac invention, right? Like you're sort of toting machines over organics.
Yep.
So in their world, dinosaurs are just a means to getting gasoline for the machines. Yeah. Can't beat the processor.
It really is. Wow, that is a really cynical viewpoint. You're absolutely right. And that kind of comes in later with Isaac Sumdac's attitude towards the Dinobots, like in any form that they take on. It's like, they're very disposable commodities.
Yeah.
It's really weird. It's a weird little bit of jaded cynicism from Isaac Sumdac. We talked earlier about how plot points or things that come up early in the episode pay off later. One of the other patterns I'm noticing with the writing in these episodes is that the theme emerges early on, and it's really made a specific point of emphasis that, I don't know if you knew this or not, I don't know if anybody knew this or not, but Bulkhead's kind of clumsy.
Right.
He's a little clumsy. He likes to,
Gosh, I never noticed that till just now.
I'll be damned, because, this episode really does make it a point to like, hey, you know what? The big guy runs into stuff. The big guy smashes things, but he's also very clumsy on his feet. And, sometimes with disastrous results here, like when he just wrecks these dinosaur robots. But I'm kind of okay with that, because Exposition Bot kind of eats some shit here, and even to he's like, oh no match for the XL4 processor. It's
no match for an XL4 processor. No match for an XL4 processor.
Just a little bit of hubris there, where it just, it's kind of like when Khan and his minions are defeated, and it's like, oh, you have the superior intellect, that kind of thing.
Right.
Just to love a little bit of hubris for Tutorbot here.
I also think it does, like, the dichotomy of the dinosaurs makes for some good jokes from Bumblebee. I really like that line when he says that thing about, like, he's basically implying that dinosaurs sound more graceful than Bulkhead. I thought that was a pretty good bit.
You ask me? Dinosaurs move with more grace than some Autobots.
And it reminded me of that line from Miss Congeniality where Michael Caine says, "My God, I haven't seen a walk like that since Jurassic Park." That's such a good bit.
That's pretty good.
So I really liked that little reference there. But yeah, Bulkhead's, when he trashes all the cars in the parking lot, just kind of driving in clumsy. But then we also see the other side of the Bulkhead where he gets excited about the pterodactyl robot, and he's like, "Does it fly?" And he like shakes the tree, like shakes the coconut tree a little bit. And then it's just chaos, right? Like from there, it's like in the scene in the library when the bookshelves are falling over and domino affecting, everything gets destroyed there.
Yep, I love it.
So now we got a bunch of broken animatronic robots, and someone's pissed because they spared no expense.
So the broken dinosaurs are taken back to Sumdac Systems for repair. And is it here where no, it's later on, but basically Isaac Sumdac is kind of like musing to himself about, lamenting repairing these robots, and Megatron speaks.
Yeah, this is a big scene because now Megatron's choosing to introduce himself to Sumdac, and we get to see more of what I really like about the Megatron in this series is these like theatrics, and he sort of does this, where am I? Like he's just waking up, but as we know, he's been up and at him for a while, pulling shenanigans. So now he has to sort of pretend like he's this less advanced bot.
Oh, you spoke. Where am I? You're in my lab, in the city of Detroit, on the planet Earth. It is a long story.
Yeah, and we see so much of that in this episode. There's like so much great monologuing and so much great delivery from Corey Burton. And again, this version of Megatron is really growing on me, because it's not the sneering menace of Frank Welker. There's like a warmth to it that you don't necessarily always get from a Megatron. And I really like this burgeoning relationship between him and Isaac Sumdac, to where like I'm not sure exactly why Megatron chooses this particular moment to reveal himself, but it's huge.
Yeah, well, it's really smart too, because Megatron is totally playing on what Sumdac thinks about robots, right? Like we're already seeing this, like he's, the father of modern robotics. There's no one, he still has his thumb on all robots. So him like introducing himself to Megatron introducing himself to Sumdac is just playing into that, because, of course, in his hubris, Sumdac thinks that he can keep Megatron under control. Like, you're just a head in my lab, you're mine. He has it's so great, because he's like no idea that strings are being pulled behind his back. How could they? How could they?
Right, because he's in control. And it is interesting that arrogance and hubris. And that seems to be very much a defining trait of Isaac Sumdac. He is brilliant, but he also is prone to ego, and with that comes that hubris. But I do like this little exchange here, because like, so Megatron's like, oh well, what happened? I where am I? What's going on? And Isaac just kind of throws over his shoulder, well, it would be a long story. And I think in a different show, that scene would just end there. And like, you would go to commercial or you transition. But there's just like this wonderful line delivery of just like, I got nothing but time.
Since it does not appear that I will be going anywhere soon, I have plenty of time for a long story.
Yeah, right. And that's also playing into, you have me right where you want me. I'm not going anywhere. So go ahead and tell me your story. And to your earlier question about like, why does Megatron choose this moment? I think it's because we've already seen that Sumdac sort of feels guilty that he hasn't told the Autobots about the fact that he reverse engineered one of their kind, and this is all in his lab. And I think Megatron maybe senses that, and then now he sort of justifies Sumdac in like, no, you do need to keep this a secret. He probably saw Sumdac waffling like, oh, maybe I should tell the Autobots. And now it's like, no, he's totally justified in keeping the secret because Megatron also wants him to keep it until he's repaired, at least. And that's sort of the deal that he's striking with Sumdac here is repair me. Well, let's start with your dinosaur robots, but you're going to repair me in the long run.
Yeah,
it's so like, I can rejoin my Autobot friends.
Oh, we have quite the history. You're friends with Detroit's new heroes. Oh yeah, we go way back, super homies.
Yeah, yeah, it's lovely.
And again, just that delivery is just dripping with that fake sincerity. It's so good. It's so really good. And there's like this bit earlier where like don't remember if like Isaac leaves or something like that, but there's this moment where Megatron is continuing to like talk to himself and think out loud, and he's like, well, now I'm gonna make me some attack drones and that kind of thing. Kind of reveals his plan to the audience, which I mean, I guess there's no other way to do that, because like, you're not privy to his internal monologue, so it's like, I guess he would have to vocally say that out loud.
Right. Yeah. So kind of going along with that, this next scene sort of ping pongs back and forth. We're seeing, it's almost a montage. It moves really quick. We see Bulkhead training with Prowl, because apparently if you mess up, and we've learned this from Bumblebee, you have to go train with Prowl. I don't know if that's what they want to do, or if it's like a punishment, like you fucked up that Dino Drive, you're going to have to go train with Prowl for a little bit.
Well, you think about it, Prowl's a dick. He's prickly and he's difficult to be around. And I bet you Optimus, being a good leader, saying like, yeah, you know what, you done fucked up. It's Optimus is a good leader / good manager in that, like, so it's kind of a punishment, but it's also like enrichment as well. It's like, you're going to benefit from the training, but it's not going to be the most pleasant thing on Earth earlier because again, as we know, Prowl is a dick.
Right. And I think Bulkhead's a little bit like Prowl's Ahsoka, right? To his Anakin. Like there's a little bit of like, this is a teachable moment for both of them. Prowl can be, we can take some of that edge off of Prowl by giving him a student, and then maybe also Bulkhead won't destroy a parking lot every time he stands up.
Exactly. And that's pretty much exactly what we see. I do think it's kind of funny. So what is it like, and anticipate your move. Assess your situation.
Yeah.
Choose your moment to strike, and that kind of thing. But it is comical watching Bulkhead just lumber around where, and it's so effortless for Prowl. He's just like this. Like that. Oh yeah. Oh, right. I didn't realize, but Bulkhead does have a lot of Patrick energy sometimes. He's very much Patrick Star at times.
That Bill Fagerbach energy is definitely there for both of them. Yeah. I was going to say too, I was thinking about that because now we have both SpongeBob and Patrick in the same cartoon. I guess I don't know if I made that connection before, but
oh my God, you're right.
Yeah. We got Tom Kenny and Bill.
Yeah.
It's kind of cool.
But then, so like the training goes awry, and
well, Prowl gets Chris Farley'd is what I wrote. Chris Farley crashing through the table. He gets smashes Prowl.
And he's like offline for a hot minute because we see like the POV shot from Prowl where it's like white static coming back on, and that's
coming too.
So yeah, it knocked him for a loop.
And this is meanwhile what you were talking about earlier is where we see that Megatron's using Sumdac to build the army of attack drones.
Yeah,
and then we see Prowl come back online, and then that's when Prowl makes the very good call to move the training to an abandoned island where there's less things to break.
Yes, we haven't even been introduced to the Dinobots proper, and I was like, "Is that Dinobot Island? Holy shit!" Because like,
oh yeah,
you know, I mean, I clocked that like immediately. Right. That kind of thing. And
I didn't even make that reference, or I didn't make that connection. Yeah, this is what I need you for. I don't always see those G1 spots. That's great.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, obviously spoilers for the outcome of this episode, which I didn't know, but like, you know, even then, like watching it for the first time, I was like, that Dinobot Island? Because I'm pretty sure that's Dinobot Island, that kind of thing. But yeah, I love the interplay between Prowl and Bulkhead here, you know, like the whole, like, you know, graceful precision.
Assess the situation. Choose your move. Execute with graceful precision. Now you try.
You know, and Bulkhead's interpretation of that, you know.
Access the situation. Choose my move.
Which I just think is hilarious. And I love that theme carries out through it. They could have done it just once and I would have laughed as hard as I did the first time, but it doesn't outstay its welcome. But I do like that they reprise that a few times throughout the episode.
Yeah, I actually kind of like it as like a mantra, access the situation. It's sort of like a reminder to be present or something. I don't know. Yeah. It kind of fits.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it can have multiple meanings, which I think is really
well, it's
cool.
not just one of those like mixed up the words, right? Like it actually does kind of fit the situation a little bit. I think that's why it's a good bit and it sticks.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So back at Dino Drive, Isaac Sumdac is revealing the new dino robotic animatronic creatures, and I want to pause here for a quick sec because he says something to the effect of, I don't remember the exact line, but he says something about the 22nd century.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that too. Are we seeing a timestamp here?
I now bring Dino Drive into the 22nd century.
I think so, because like, you know, we spent a good portion of our opening episodes trying to speculate when this show takes place. And, you know, I think the consensus that we had agreed on was that it's basically 2057. In that, like, you know, the Autobots emerge from the space bridge over Earth in 2007, go into the cool waters of Lake Erie, where they go into stasis for 50 years, and then they emerge. It's 2057.
They purified themselves in the water of Lake Erie.
There it is.
Now, is that a Mandalorian reference or a Purple Rain reference? It's hard to say anything.
Oh, it could be two things. It's like, and then by Creed, I will be absolved.
Yeah.
Creed 3 now in theaters. But no, it's but with it being the 22nd century, that seems to fly in the face of that. So
right,
way
in the future.
So if it's the 22nd century, it would
that
be
means it's 21 something,
21
right?
something.
That's how that works.
Yeah. So Star Trek the original series takes place in the 23rd century, and they're in the 2200s. So yeah, I'm using that reductive math.
Yeah.
But anyway, so this is 21 something,
right?
Which is weird, but it does sound more futuristic than saying the 21st century because, well, that's the now time, you know. So I don't know what to make of that. I really don't.
Yeah, well, maybe we also have to rethink of like, is Detroit a utopia, or is the whole world like this? Is this just a vision of the future? We're just happening to focus on Detroit at the moment.
Right. And
maybe it is the whole world.
It could be. And it also kind of gives me galaxy brain thoughts of just like, now instead of feeling so advanced, it feels like, you know, you tack on an extra 50 years and it almost feels like society should be further along.
Right. Yeah. That's interesting. It also kind of makes sense because, like, you know, we also, in an earlier episode, we were talking about why set it so far in the future. And maybe one of the reasons is just there's less public shock at robots at this point, or like beings from another planet or something. Maybe being so far in the future, like their minds are a little more open to, you know, robotic life forms landed on our planet. Cool. And then we just move on.
Yeah, you're right. And there isn't that much shock value with otherworldly things like we talked about Colossus Rhodes, you know, being alien like.
Yeah.
And now that we've cracked open that we're in the 22nd century, who's to say that he's not an extraterrestrial visitor? I mean, it's just it really just cracks this thing wide open. Which
ever since that hammer fell in New Mexico, everything's changed.
Exactly. So yeah, I mean, we get the name drop, you know, that Isaac Sumdac dubs them Dinobots, which is super cool.
Yeah, I wrote down we can finally call them Dinobots. I'd been purposely trying not to say that word until this moment, but
right.
We have official Dinobots, ladies and gentlemen.
And this is, I mean, I suppose as good of a time as any to talk about that this is a really clever and clean and concise origin story for the Dinobots. You know, because it's not, you know, Wheeljack and Huffer and Ratchet like finding like bones in a volcano and deciding to, you know, make dinosaurs. Conversely, it's not, they've always been around, but they're different than the other Autobots, you know, like some of the more like comic book type of tropes. I like that this, in a weird way, I like that this origin kind of keeps the feel of the Dinobots being separate from the Autobots. Because like that was kind of a thing in some of those early G1 episodes. It's like they would help the Autobots when they wanted to, when it suited their purpose, where there would be many a times where Optimus would go groveling to Grimlock and say, hey man, you really got to help us. We really need your help. You know, it's like, me, Grimlock, no want to, you know, that kind of stuff. So I like that there's a little bit of tether to that, making them antagonistic at first, being almost literally creations of Megatron. And that's
very cool.
That calls back to, was it SOS Dinobots or Desertion of the Dinobots? I don't remember, but like early on, where Megatron figures out very early on what the Autobots, what the Dinobots' weaknesses are to exploit.
The Dinobots do have weaknesses. Slag is hostile, Grimlock arrogant, and Sludge stupid. I will use those weaknesses to turn them against Optimus Prime.
You know, so Megatron comes in and charms these Dinobots to turning on the Autobots. So I think this is a really elegant way to pay homage to all of that without doing that same story. And for me, because Huffer sucks and I'm glad he's dead, but you don't have like, you know, Dinobots, huh? I thought you was gonna make dinosaurs. I'm glad Huffer's dead.
I'm just buried under my table right now.
Yeah. So you don't have any of that, and like it's cleverly rooted in this Jurassic Park animatronic Disney type of thing, and I just think that is a really clean origin for this version of the Dinobots.
Yeah, that's really cool. I guess I didn't even make that connection, but yeah, that does tie back to the original series source material. That's pretty cool. But back to my wheelhouse, makes it more like Jurassic Park all over again, because now we have these dinosaur creations that no one stopped to think if they should do it, let alone they could do it. But now the murderous rampage ensues. It does exactly what we were hoping was going to happen in Jurassic Park, which is the dinosaurs get loose and they just start causing a big ordeal. And Bulkhead finally gets to try out some of his sweet Prowl training. Unfortunately, or fortunately for me, Prowl gets Chris Farley'd again. The Chris Farley count goes up to 2 because he gets squashed again.
The christening. he got christened here. Man. But from there you get this really, really cool sequence here of like Ratchet is trying to use his magnet powers. So he's got like his magnet gun. And then Bumblebee, what was he like first start with the stingers and he's trying to like shoot the Dinobots? I might be misremembering that.
Yeah. But ultimately they decide to cross the streams, if we're talking Ghostbusters reference here. Yeah. And I don't know, Mike, if you thought that or heard that too, but like the sound effects and the animation are very much like the proton stream of a Ghostbusters proton pack. I was just like, oh, this is just straight up Ghostbusters here. Great
pickup. That's awesome. And I just love that they go full Captain Planet here, by their powers combined. I'm a sucker for this kind of stuff where it's like you said, like, crossing the streams or combining their powers. That kind of stuff is really clever. And then like I almost kind of like gasped when Sari shows up with the Allspark key and gives them the like a power boost. I was just like, okay, one, she's using the key for what it was meant for, or at least in an appropriate fashion, and not just trying to like pick locks, or like close down force fields on Bulkhead's sweet thick dump truck ass. But anyway, but no, I thought that was a really cool sequence where all three of them are combining their powers to try to slow down these Dinobots, which are shown to be incredibly powerful, which I think is rad.
Yeah. Well, I think another important thing we need to mention here is that it's not just Sari jumping in. The key actually pulls her to Bumblebee to do that. Just like it happened with the lock at her dad's lab a couple episodes ago. Like, this is fantastic foreshadowing, right? Because they had that little moment where the lab lock, the key pulled itself to that too, and now it's happening again. In fact, Megatron even comments that the key senses something Cybertronian. It's almost as if the key senses something Cybertronian. Yeah. So the key is upgrading B. It's not actually Sari like deciding to jump in. I actually took a cool screenshot of it too. Like the key like picks itself up and pulls to the scene.
What a cool moment. And it also underscores again that fragment of the Allspark, or that representation of the Allspark, knows something. It has some manner of autonomy.
Yeah, its own agenda.
And you get a lot of Megatron kind of like surveilling the scene, or like, watching it on monitors and stuff. And I just love his rolling commentary. It's like, that's interesting. So it's like, he's seeing things in this new world that he's been thrust into now that he's awake and conscious, and not unlike Skynet, he's learning at an exponential rate.
Yeah, it does show like how great of a villain he is and how much smarter he is than kind of everybody, and why he is the villain of this thing, because it shows him putting something together that no one else did. It's like, oh, the Allspark kind of became a little key and it's around this girl's neck, and we just let it do whatever it wants. Like, no one's like, well, maybe there's a purpose here. There's something happening that we don't have control of here. No one even seems to question that on the Autobot side, but
right.
Megatron, first time he sees it in use, he's like, oh yeah, something's happening there.
Well, and Megatron has been fixated on the Allspark for the entirety of the time that we've seen him. That's how we're introduced to him. It's like, this ragtag group of space bridge technicians finds the Allspark, or actually the Allspark finds them, and that's kind of what gets Megatron to kind of reemerge. Like, I don't know if that Decepticon ship had been doing prior to the crew finding the Allspark, but then suddenly it's like, oh man, I feel the Allspark. It's we're going over there. I'm going after that Autobot ship. So it tells me that Megatron has, if not a connection to, at least some kind of deeper, profound knowledge. He's a student of what the Allspark's power is, as opposed to, say, like somebody like Starscream, who's just like, I'm just going to use this to blow up some buildings, and not really understand what the power is, other than it just is raw power, and that's all he wants. It reminds me, if I may, one of like the coolest, iciest Megatron Starscream exchanges from, I don't remember which part it is, but it's from More Than Meets the Eye, the G1 pilot, and it's like I think it was after one of Starscream's many failed assassination attempts on Megatron, and Megatron's got him by the throat, and he's just like, power flows to those who know how.
Oh yeah.
Desire alone is not enough. And like, I mean, like, I'm like 6 years old, and that just like crystallizes in my mind. And it's a philosophy I still kind of carry with me to today. Like, even like as I evaluate folks I report to at work, or the like manager type of folks. And it's like, I've worked with a lot of Ultra Magnuses from time to time. I've worked with a lot of Rodimus Primes, and I've been a lot of those myself. And there is this part when I run into ambitious people where I'm just like,
power flows to the one who knows how. Desire alone is not enough.
It's so
gives me chills.
Weirdly profound. Yeah, it's so weirdly profound. But like that tells me the difference between Megatron's desire for the Allspark and what Starscream does with it for the brief time he has.
Right.
But
right, and it points to more like the Decepticons as a collectively don't have the vision. It is Megatron's vision kind of driving them.
Right. Which incidentally, I mean, I know I dragged us off like four different tangents deep, but like, this is another episode with no Decepticons that aren't Megatron.
Right.
It's like, where are these assholes?
Right. And as far as we know, he's an Autobot, right? That's what he told
Oh,
Isaac,
yes.
so.
Oh, my old friends, the Autobots. I have such a great history with my best good friend, Optimus Prime.
He puts on a gray wig and glasses. I am also feeble.
He does that. There's a lot of that in his voice.
Yeah.
There's a specific warble there. It's like, oh, no, I was only trying to help. I need a new body. Please help me, Isaac Subdak. Oh, I'm so frail.
I can't get
so
up.
Funny. Yeah, Megatron's like, Isaac Subdak, help me! I've fallen and I can't get up.
Oh man!
Oh, it's so good.
So, I think this next scene where the key essentially reformats the Dinobots. I feel like, and I use that phrase because I feel like this is another, like, maybe I'm grasping at straws here, but maybe this is another Beast Machines moment. I know you're not too familiar with that show, but. This is essentially what Optimus has the ability to do in that show, which is like take another Transformer that's malfunctioning or can't survive on Cybertron and reformat it, because he's walking around with the power of the Oracle,
right,
which is basically what Sari has here in the key. It's sort of a manifestation, it's a physical manifestation of the Allspark that she carries with her. And again, since I made the reference to that Marty Eisenberg also wrote that show, I feel like this is kind of what we're seeing here. And so that what's happening is that the key, they think the key is helping them stop or refrain the Dinobots. But I think what the key is actually doing is like sending sort of Cybertronian energy or changing their matrix a little bit to sort of make them who they are, what Megatron wanted them to be, which is not just attack drones, but like Cybertronians.
Right.
So I think that's what's happening here a little bit more. They think like the key is giving them the power boost, but I think there's this is more like the life-giving element of the Allspark that we've seen.
I was just going to ask you that. It's like, is that what's happening here? Is through the will of the Allspark and the combination of Ratchet and Bumblebee using their powers to create this electromagnetic field, is the Allspark imbuing these automatons, these Dinobots now, with Cybertronian life?
Yeah, I think it has to be. I think that's 100% what's happening here.
See, and that's interesting because like the way I read it more face value as it played out, basically I just saw basically their fake skin gets blown off Terminator style and revealing their true form underneath it. They were always those Dinobots underneath all that fake rubber skin, and now they're living their best life, being their best self.
Yeah. I wondered that myself, because no one seems surprised when their skin gets blown off. Like maybe everyone, not even Isaac, who worked on them. Like I think he'd be, but maybe nobody knew. Maybe they were, I guess when he worked on them, they were all covered in their latex dinosaur parts. So maybe nobody knew, and they just think, oh yeah, that's what they look like without their skin on. But yeah, who knows what they were and what they are.
Yeah. And to your point about reformatting it makes me wonder if that's part of it as well. It's maybe they like reformatted underneath, like, because I would imagine, again, I'm not a student of Beast Wars or Beast Machines or anything having to do with the Beast era, but basically, like, that's my understanding, is that when you're in Beast mode, you have organic tissue on top of your I mean, you're still a robot, but like when you're in Beast mode, because am I understanding that right? Like, so,
yeah, yep, that's true.
Like Cheetor manifests as a cheetah, not a robot cheetah, right?
Right. Well, until Rise of the Beasts comes out, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, for now, that's their whole. It's a true disguise.
Got it. Okay. That makes sense. So more than a couple things here that kind of happens in a very short time. When the Dinobots are running amok, so their true forms are revealed, and I think at this point they're breathing fire. I don't remember, but they're being antagonistic and attacking. And Isaac says this thing. He's like, "Wait a sec, what the hell is happening?" Mega said, "Oh no, I can't say that out loud." Yeah. He knows Megatron's name.
I don't know what went wrong. I'm absolutely certain that my assistant and I thought of everything.
And that's, I just think that is huge, because I don't know if we saw in their earlier exchange where, we were having a lot of fun with, Megatron's way of speaking, but I don't think it went so far to where he's like, "I am Megatron, leader of the heroic Decepticons."
Right.
That kind of thing.
Exactly. Yeah.
So,
but it's fun switching to that voice a little bit. Something just feels good.
it's a fun voice. It's a really cool delivery. But yeah, it's wild that he knows Megatron's name, and he knows that he almost fucked up by doing that Freudian slip and almost saying it out loud. I almost would have liked, I mean, there would be no way to do it, but like almost if somebody was close by to him, like Prowl or something where like an eyebrow just raises, like, wait.
What did you almost say? Yeah.
Exactly. Because, I mean, they know the name Megatron. So even if somebody says Mega, I mean, granted, you would need the context, but still, that would at least raise an eyebrow. Like, did I just hear what I thought I almost heard? That kind of thing.
Well, that's another really smart point of the show, like, because now we see that he can't say that name. Like, now he has a reason to keep it hidden. Now it can't just slip out. Now Megatron's secret's kept. So, really smart move, actually, to introduce himself at this moment.
Yeah, and they are now in an unholy alliance.
Yes.
It's like, I don't know how Isaac Sumdac is going to get out of this situation, because now he is a pawn of Megatron, and it's kind of delicious.
And the worst kind, because he doesn't know it. He thinks he's pulling the strings, but
yeah, he thinks he's got the upper hand. And incidentally, there was a scene earlier where they're in the lab. Isaac Sumdac and Megatron, and they're chatting, and I don't know if I noticed this in other episodes, but we had seen Megatron's hand, so it's like we knew it was the hand and the head, but there was something about the layout of the lab in this particular episode. I looked at it, I'm like, did Isaac turn that hand into a chair? Because it almost looks like it's a chair.
Yeah, well, it reminds me, I don't know, this is probably a lost reference now too, but it reminds me of Arrested Development, because Buster has the hand chair, and when he loses his hand later, he looks over and he's like, ah.
That's exactly what I was thinking, that red chair. It's like, man, that's awesome. But I completely buried the lead because like we have an iconic moment here. Grimlock speaks.
Yeah.
And it is, and I love that they teased it out this long and made us wait this long. Because I didn't know it was going to be Greg Berger. I mean, I knew kind of through cultural osmosis because Greg Berger is commonly credited as the voice of Grimlock, that kind of thing.
Right.
So it was probably implied that he was going to reprise here. But when he says me Grimlock leader, I'm just like, hot damn. It's like, it's again, they did that for me.
Yeah. You'll have to drop that soundbite in of how he actually picks his name, but
it will take countless solar cycles to create attack drones capable of my needs. And without more substantial robotics for my own body, my prospects are grim, locked in this prison of a lab. Grim, lock, grim, lock. So, the Autobots did not destroy you. What did they do?
Oh yeah, we didn't even talk about that.
Yeah, well, because it's great because it gives more credence to why Megatron is sort of this theatrical way of talking. Because when he delivers the line, "My prospects are grim, locked in this prison of a lab," like that's just more him talking. That's what we're used to from Megatron. But Grimlock uses it to take his name.
He's like Grim Lock. Yeah,
and then let's auto-tune that and release it on Spotify, and that'll be the hot jam of the summer. Grim, Lock, Grim, Lock.
That's that is so good. But yeah, and it's so funny. It's yet another instance of Megatron being theatrically maudlin and morose. He's like, oh, this poor existence.
Right.
He's almost
Star
like
Trek reference. He's a little like Bones, right?
Yeah, exactly. He's almost like a Dr. Smith from Lost in Space or something like that. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, very much.
Well, don't just stand there, you nickel-plated nincompoop. Get a move on.
How dare you speak to me in that fashion, you frightful, fractious frump! No, I didn't know what I was doing. Oh, forgive me, great and noble sire.
God damn.
I want to mention too in this scene before we move forward on, but there's just a little moment. They show the 3 schematics from the Dinobots, and it is really cool artwork. I took a screen grab of it, but I would love like a triptych print of those things. They're so cool and they're so colorful, and it's sort of like a breakout. It's almost like a blueprint of what the Dinobots look like taken apart. But they do a really cool like pan across of this. It's just beautiful.
So cool. I love that.
Well, Megatron is impressed that the Dinobots are still functioning, but that they're also, they have a brain now. Like they've at least kind of pulling sentences together. And so this is more credence to Megatron's theory that the key is doing something and that the Allspark is doing something. And I think this probably also goes back to like, this is probably sort of Megatron justifying what he's been doing this whole time. He's like, see, it's not good versus evil. The key wants the same thing as me. The key is on my side here.
Yeah. That's some good villain work there. Where it's, again, the villain is the hero of their own story. And yeah, Megatron feels completely justified in his actions here. So basically Megatron breaks down this whole thing where it's like, holy crap, they can, they can speak, they have autonomy and all of that. And so let's see what I can do with these things. And then you get what is probably, this had to have been intentional, but it's like the whole thing where Megatron is like specifically breaking down, like even through the exposition of like the whole fossil fuel thing, how that comes back around. And it's like, so you got dinosaur bones become oil and petroleum becomes fuel for these cars, so therefore cars and trucks are bad. And you love this. It's like cars, trucks, bad. And then, oh my God, this is so good. But like he does the thing where it's like, okay, well now let's bring in these Autobots. But you know what's worse than cars and trucks is these car robots. Some of these cars that transform into robot. And I think he says transform, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
So another ding against the conversion legislation, with regards to the trademark on the phrase. But yeah, it shook me a little bit where he's like, did Megatron just say transform? Because I'm pretty sure he did. But it's like I love how he's figuratively holding Grimlock's hand and just saying like, okay, so yeah, so bones to gas to cars to
they're
robots.
Eating you.
yeah, so good. But then like this line just like, so I was watching the episode on my laptop with headphones in, and like, so but when Grimlock says
car and trucks bad, car robots worse.
I was just like, oh, you motherfuckers, you cheeky little monkey. It's like, I love that. I mean, that has to be a reference to RID 2001, right?
Oh yeah, that'd be really cool. Yeah,
has to be.
The other last animated thing, I guess. Like maybe they're taking a dig at the other like hand-drawn property,
because like that becomes part of the mantra. Like I think he says that like a number of times. It's like car robots bad.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
Your cars and trucks bad. Car robots worse. That whole thing.
Well, I just love this moment. This is one of those great writing culmination of elements. So now, you have the payoff of like that little robot, the little exposition bot getting blown up, but it's also in the lab. Grimlock's the leader. He's not going to listen to anybody, but Megatron, being as manipulative as he is, he's able to use that clip that he saw to turn them to his will. Like Megatron does not take no for an answer. He needs to control them. And he finds a way to do it very quickly using this little bot's head that's in the room with them. It's just smart. It's a great culmination of elements from the episode coming to this moment to work.
Megatron is a brilliant tactician, and he comes up with stuff on the quick. It's like he figured out how to noodle that through very quickly. And despite his current circumstances, he is very adaptive and adaptable. But I love where, Megatron just kind of like, unleashes them, and it's like, destroy the fossil feeders.
right.
What a cool thing, fossil feeders.
Yeah.
Now here's the other thing too, and we talked about this a while ago, but I had made a comment about, since we're in the 22nd century, supposedly, 2100 something. And I made a crack about, like, you would think that technology and society would be a little further along. We're still using fossil fuels in 2100.
Right. That'd be nice. That's not going to happen.
That's yeah. But I just thought that was kind of interesting, because like that's kind of like is it, let me see if I could say this delicately. Is it like forward thinking, backwards thinking? Meaning like being so cynical in worldview to be like, oh yeah, by 2100 we're still using dinosaur juice to power our cars because of antiquated politics and things like that. Is it some of that Paul Verhoeven cynicism that we saw in the in the last episode?
Oh, that's really good. Yeah, that could be. I like that better than just like we didn't know any better. Like back in 2007, I'd like to think, yeah, maybe that's a little dig.
Because, more often than not, the future is presented as like flying cars and hoverboards and sustainable energy and things like that. It's interesting, and with as purposeful as everything else is in TFA.
Yeah.
Oh, I wish there was somebody I could ask about that.
We've already seen sort of an environmental take on this show, right? Everything from Prowl being obsessed with organics to like nature and the tree in his room. Like there's definitely a message we're getting so far, and it's pro environment. So I can see that.
Yeah.
If the front half of this episode was Jurassic Park, now we're getting into Lost World territory, because the Dinobots are taking to the streets, right? Like this is like the end
Taking
of
it to
end
the
of Lost World.
Yeah,
Taking to
you're
the streets,
right.
cars and trucks bad. Mass hysteria, dogs and cats living together, Grimlock's fire breathing, Fan Zone drops his signature line.
This is why I hate machines.
Yeah.
Like it's wild. It's this crazy nighttime battle of dinosaurs versus the city.
Yeah. Also, R.I.P. Fan Zone's yellow coupe. That takes the pass here. It gets squashed, and
oh man,
and it was something.
Chris Farley count number 3.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not going to make that christening joke a third time. I don't want to get canceled. But that reminds me of a question that I had in our previous episode when we were talking about Total Meltdown. So Bumblebee has scanned Captain Fanzone's car, but that doesn't mean that he necessarily is Captain Fanzone's car. And up till that point, I hadn't seen that car. It's like, because like I don't remember what happened to his little yellow coupe. I hadn't seen it for a couple episodes, and now it shows up here only to get squashed. So
yeah.
So is it going to get reformatted into Goldbug, or what's going to happen there with Fanzone's car, or he's going to roll up in a Camaro or something?
That was my wife's car.
Oh no! That was the thing that happened. Oh no! Oh, and she was in it too, and she got squashed. She's super dead. But
I better go for a rotten beer then.
Yeah, my God. Oh my gosh, green hot dogs with white sauce on it. It's disgusting.
Right. Well, I think we should also mention too something before we get too far away from it.
Yeah.
That one of the moments that's going to come back to play later is before the Dinobots are taken back to the lab to get worked on. There's that little exchange where, Isaac Sumdac says, they're just machines. We'll probably scrap them or whatever. And that doesn't sit right with Prowl, and it doesn't sit right with Bulkhead.
Yeah.
So there's already kind of a seed of doubt planted there.
Prowl is especially tetchy about it.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. And that makes total sense with his character.
It really does, because he is a dick. I mean, Prowl is a dick. It's the trope, but he cherishes life, and that's again, it's part of his spiritual ninja-ness. It's it's a really cool trait. Again, I'm seeing more and more why people dig this guy, but and it also speaks to how casual Isaac Sumdac is about ending robot life. How it's just like it doesn't mean anything to him. It's just it's like just throwing out a broken mouse or a broken keyboard or something like that. It's like that he has, for being the father of modern robotics, he has no empathetic tether to his machines, even his own machines that he himself has invented with reverse engineered Cybertronian tech. But still, it's like, but yeah, there's no, for as anthropomorphic as the Sumdac Systems machines are, because they're all kinds of human looking machines. But why then would he make machines that are so humanoid looking and be so apathetic towards just melting them down? I mean, like, he says it with a shrug, an indifferent shrug. You're just gonna melt them down.
Well, he's just a big bloated corporation now, right?
Yeah.
The profits got to him, I guess. I mean, who knows?
He went corporate.
yeah, exactly. But it's interesting. I throw back to that scene with where they're talking about them just being machines, because we see another side of like Bulkhead being buddies with Prowl, because now Bulkhead shares that sentiment. And when the Autobots are en route to deal with the rampaging Dinobots, Bulkhead's like, he votes to like, can we just put them somewhere? Where they can do less damage? I mean, and I think that's interesting, because that's what Prowl did for him. Instead of Prowl being like, you're a failure at ninja training, he's like, let's go to this island and we can, you can have a little more room to breathe.
Yeah.
I think that's a really cool moment. And I think that shows that that he learned something from that. And now he's taking it and applying it to the situation they're in with the Dinobots.
Yeah. And prior to that, we get another callback to earlier with Exposition Bot talking about the dinosaurs getting stuck in tar, And so basically that's how the Dinobots are stopped, you know, with the black sticky stuff, you know, and again, it's the thing that's interesting for me as a first time viewer is I know there's a certain amount of episodes, and I know there's you know, 2.5 seasons yet ahead of us, but because I don't know anything about the fates of any of the characters, I would be lying if I didn't feel genuine empathy and compassion and peril for the Dinobots as they're getting stuck in the goo and being unable to like fire breath their way out of it. It was like I don't know if it was just the mood I was in, but it was like weirdly heart-wrenching. I'm just like, oh my God.
Yeah, no, it was a really tender moment, and I hate to make this reference, but it's similar to like a rabid dog being put down or something. Like yes, they were sort of the antagonists of this final battle, but at the same time, it's sad. It's sad to see them kind of like, you know, with the muzzle on them, and like, you know, they're just animals, really, at the end of the day.
Well,
it was a very tender moment.
Well, and especially so too, because Grimlock is the only Dinobot who speaks. So we don't know the manifestation of the intelligence of the other two.
Right.
And I guess now, since I invoked them, we haven't really talked about the other two Dinobots, and it's accidentally stepping into sticky waters. So you have Swoop, who looks very much like Swoop, and you know, I mean, down to the G1 cartoon accurate blue accents and blue chest and things like that. So it's very much Swoop. But the Triceratops, and I want to make a point of emphasis on this, and so my only reference for his name at this point is from the TF Wiki, and he's identified as Snarl, which I thought that was incredibly odd. But it reminds me, though, of the ongoing litigation with regard to that particular Dinobot's name. He's gone through a number of different names. First, in G1, he was Slag, and then in my opinion, two different things at the same time. Both things can be true. Hasbro wanted to move away from that phrase as a name because apparently in other parts of the world it's derogatory. Like in you know, our UK listeners could probably educate me better, but apparently slag is a derogatory slang term for ladies of the night. You know, that sure. kind of thing. So it has a very negative connotation, and not really the name that you would want to name your child's dinosaur robot toy. But also, they've lost the copyright a couple of times as well. In fact, Hasbro's been kind of funny with like different naming conventions. Like you notice, like any Jazz figure that comes out is called Autobot Jazz, and not just Jazz because of like, you know, copyrights. And that was a lesson that I learned more recently than I would care to admit, because one of the things that used to really get under my skin was name reuse. It's like, well, why is this Beast Wars character called Silverbolt? That's not the goddamn aerial bot. But dummy, if you don't reuse names for copyright purposes, you lose the copyright. That's how, I mean, that's why we had no Bumblebee for a number of years. That's why Shockwave was Shock Blast for a number of years. So I think they had similar situations with Slag, but then also the other part of it, the UK-ness of as well. So it's like something they didn't necessarily want to do. So from what I understand, and I have not watched it for a while, Chris McFeely put out a terrific episode of Transformers The Basics on Slag/Slug, and he kind of goes over some of the various naming conventions, and he probably mentioned this, that him being Snarl in TFA, and I just blanked on it. But so the Triceratops dinosaur has been named a number of different things. But there is a contingent of the boomer G1 community that's like, you know what? His name is Slag. And that's it. No ands, ifs, or buts. And at a time where folks identify as their true selves, I think, it's adding another layer to a children's dinosaur robot toy. But a YouTuber, Pew, I think, Peaugh, not Thu, who is somebody else entirely, but in his review of the Studio Series 86 Dinobot Slug figure.
And he is Slug now. And I had a whole, as I often do when I do some of these renamed Transformers, I had a bit about blah, 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 we remember him as. And then I realized that it's kind of, and if I'm going to pontificate a little bit here, and maybe I'm misguided, but it feels like even though we're talking about toys, it's still the same kind of disrespectful mentality of when you don't refer to somebody by a new name or a new pronoun that they prefer when they've told you that. So Slug has told us that he is Slug. So he's Slug from now on. And I know that seems silly, but I think when people tell you what their name is, you should respect it.
And to me, that's kind of where it begins and ends. So it's like I know trans folks, and it's like and that's what their name is, and their dead name is not their name. So that's kind of where I look at the whole Slug thing. Is Slug identifies as Slug, and that's their name now. So in this case,
I like Slug better. Is that wrong of me? I think it's a better name anyway, to be honest.
Yeah, and it still has that same violent connotation, as like Slag. Because again, that particular character, whatever his name is he's a violent hothead. So I think Slug. Like in terms of like, hauling off and punching somebody, that
right. Or like a metal slug, like out of a gun, and Slug is in slow moving, Slug is in heavy hitting. Like I think that fits on a lot of
all of it. Yeah. But all of that is to say that I did find it curious that neither of the two Dinobots are identified by name within the context of this episode. The only reason why I know his name is Snarl is because I saw it on TF Wiki.
Right. Well, and I think we will get that later on, but at this point in time, Grimlock's the only one that talks. It appears Grimlock's the only one with the capability to like make sound and name himself. So I guess that's where it maybe comes from. As far as like when they're fighting them, they don't think they're fighting anything Cybertronian, right? This comes in a little conjecture at the end, but they just think they're fighting the dinosaur robots from earlier.
Right. And it reminds me, now I've kind of dragged us off topic a little bit. I'm looking at some of my notes. There's this little bit of exchange between, I think it's Isaac Sumdac and Megatron, where it's like they were talking about like the new features on the Dinobots. And Isaac says like, wait, features plural? And there's like a specific point of emphasis on that's gonna come to fruition here in just a little bit.
Yeah. Well, to rewind a little bit. So the Autobots and the Dinobots are duking it out. In fact, I think Autobots and Dinobots !! Is like the news on the TV. Like that's what even the media is calling
the
this
Chiron.
Yeah. So we see Sumdac kind of see that Megatron is kind of pulling some strings, but he's okay with it for now. Like it falls, but there is that moment of like, oh, maybe I don't have complete control of this situation. I thought that was pretty interesting. So the battle ultimately ends, and why I wanted to make sure we talked about that moment where Bulkhead says that, I think we should do something with them. I don't think we should destroy them. I think we should move it, because Optimus in that moment was like, no, that's a very good idea, Bulkhead. But when it comes right down to it, after the battle ends and they're trapped in the tar, Optimus is weirdly on the side of like, no, we need to destroy them. They're kind of too dangerous to be kept alive. And I was like really taken aback by that.
I have a note on that because again, this in weird ways calls back to G1 continuity. Like even in SOS Dinobots, like I think Prime even at some point tells Wheeljack and Ratchet, it's like, you got to shut these assholes down. They are too dangerous to live. I think he even says like too dangerous to live at some point.
Yeah.
Or something to that effect. But basically, like, Optimus has always had a uneasiness and a state of unease around the Dinobots, specifically Grimlock too, because like one of the things that they show scale wise is that Grimlock is significantly larger than Optimus Prime, or at least in most G1 continuity. So it's like he's shown as an imposing figure. So it's like Optimus is trying to be, he's the leader of the Autobots, but it's like this guy might be more powerful than even I am. So I got to be careful. And there's always like this little bit of unease, which in a way, now it would not be a Mike Seibert Radio joint if it didn't somehow come back around to Transformers the movie, which tells me in that moment when reinforcements arrive to the siege on Autobot City, you know, it's Optimus Prime piloting the shuttle and the Dinobots are in there, and you know, Prime is all like, Dinobots, destroy Devastator. That tells me they've in the interceding 20 years have like healed that rift, and like they found some way to like work together as equals. Now again, that's weird interpretation on my part, because you know, even then, like, Grimlock isn't like, don't tell me what to do, it's me, Grimlock, love challenge, you know. So it's like, so that tells me that there's been some kind of reconciliation there. But anyway, so with Optimus here, it seems a little out of character for this incarnation of Optimus Prime, but for me, it was ringing all my bells. It's like, oh yeah, much like how Optimus dies in every continuity, apparently Optimus in every continuity is kind of leery of the Dinobots.
Yeah, and to be fair, again, they don't know that there's anything Cybertronian or life about. This is literally just a Ferris wheel come to life, sort of.
Yeah.
So I think we do have that buffer a little bit, but you're right. It is an uncomfortable moment for him. And I think you're supposed to feel discomfort from him. He's not a perfect Optimus. And I think this is another moment where they had to remind us of that.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't want to gloss over like the way this battle ends, which I think is awesome, because it's very much like the Avengers. Like they're like, Prowl tells Bulkhead, I think you should do what you do, which is just, the Hulk smash. It reminded me of that moment of Cap telling Hulk to smash in the end of Avengers.
And Hulk. Smash.
And then there's just this really cool sequence of just Bulkhead just going to town on these dinosaur robots.
Yeah, because he's like, access the situation. And Prowl's like, yeah, no, not this time. It's like Bulkhead smash. And it's like, I want Bulkhead to turn around. He's like, that's my secret. I'm always clumsy.
Yeah, right. Oh, that would have been great. I guess there'd be some time rift.
But still, it's very much that moment, and never mind the fact that he's big and green, as well. But yeah, you're right. It's like, so Bulkhead is trying to take Prowl's lessons, and it's not working for him, and again at a show that is terrific with themes and lessons. Really, the takeaway here is be yourself. Be yourself and be your best self. Learn other stuff, but stay true to your core. So in this case, Prowl's like, yeah, fuck all that noise. Go break some shit.
Right.
And he does with delicious abandon. I mean, it's like he feels like Bulkhead feels like he's just been like unleashed.
Oh, it is really cool. It's a really cool action sequence. So after the battle ends, though, and Optimus and Isaac are in agreement of destroy these things, Prowl and Bulkhead take them to the abandoned island, the quote unquote Dinobot island that we saw, and cover it with a holographic cover to keep them safe. I think this is the most interesting part of this episode, because now Bulkhead and Prowl collectively have a secret that they're keeping from their leader. I think that was a really cool, interesting thing to do with it.
in an episode that is filled with those bonding moments, because now Isaac Sumdac and Megatron are bonded through a shared secret, and now Bulkhead and Prowl also have a secrets of their own.
Right.
Interesting.
Yeah, I think it's again
secret intrigue.
Well, I think it's another element of that great writing of like these sort of like subtle dramatic things. Like not everything has to be a big swing of like, now I'm betraying them and by doing this, like there's sort of machinations behind the scenes of it's the plot is coming from who has secrets from whom, not just who punched whom and who's a Decepticon and who's an Autobot. And we see Grimlock transform, which is a final important scene because that proves that he was reformatted in some way, because no matter what you can say, that animatronic robot was not built to transform into a humanoid with a fire sword,
with a flaming sword.
Yeah,
and
which is dope as hell.
Fucking cool.
It's so elegant.
I love it, and I like Grimlock's sword, you know, like whatever Evergreen version is, you know, it's just like a giant red flaming sword, but this one with like the craggly lava rock bits in it looks really menacing and really, really cool. But I want to call out the moment right before that where this thing where with Grimlock transforming and presenting the sword, it's almost like the T-Rex roaring at the climax of Jurassic Park, where it's like, it's like, where when dinosaurs ruled the earth.
You want the banner to fall.
I want to see the banner fall. It's like, it's so cool. It has that much weight and punch to it. But before that, there was this moment I love so much where just like, Grimlock is still just kind of like kicking rocks there on Dinobot Island. He's like, cars and trucks bad, but as he's looking around, he's like,
nature good.
And I love that. And then the bird shit on him, and he I mean, I had to wind it back. Those birds do get away. They did not get fried under his fire breath there. But again, we talked a lot about the pro-environment themes, and I think it's very telling and very specific and very deliberate, where it's like cars and trucks bad, nature good. Come on. That's
right. There's so that's our confirmation of the message that's being sent.
Yeah, I mean, it's literally just right there on Front Street. And yeah, so you get was it me Grimlock-like, something like that. When he's got the flaming sword, he's like, Grimlock-like.
Oh, yeah.
Very, very cool. Oh, incidentally, I forgot, and it's so funny because like I put a reference on my notes that I didn't know what it was. I wrote in all caps, "Excuse me!" ! I thought it was something that I was outraged about. No, my friend, it is my favorite Easter egg in the entire episode.
Perfect timing.
Yeah, there is that thing where Bulkhead knocks over Snarl. We'll call him Snarl because that's what his name is in this continuity. So Bulkhead knocks over Snarl and he's like, "Excuse me," which is what Slag says to the Quintesson prosecutor as he drops the door on him.
Excuse me.
Yes, I mean, it's that character's line, so it's a really cool role reversal. Yeah, that's like,
great. And I have to think if the writer of this episode was around to write episodes of Small Wonder, I'm sure he's a original G1 fan, so that can't be cool.
That is true. I mean, it's got to be. I mean, again, they put that in there for me, and like, I mean, I don't remember if I finished this musing this story, but like, I was listening on headphones, and it's like, so there were several times where I'm just like, to nobody, an audience of nobody, I'm like, ha! I'm like, God damn it, that's awesome. I had a blast with this episode. I was hooting and hollering and being like, really.
Would you say you had a blast from the past?
Yes. I would also say that, no, that's good. I would also say that I was pretty animated while I was watching it. Come on.
Would you say you got your ass kicked? I don't know where I'm going with this.
Oh no! Now we're just doing CSI Miami over here.
Yeah, right. I took my glasses off. People couldn't tell.
Yeah! Oh my god!
But that brings us to the next point of what's your score for this one? What's your G1er Olympic score for this?
Okay, so this is on a scale of 10, right?
Yes.
15.7. Wow. On a scale of 10. This one is off the charts. Because obviously it's Dinobots. It's Greg Berger returning as the voice of Grimlock, and all of the lines. I mean, like, just having the "excuse me" line would have at least made it a 9 out of 10 on its own. So then I have to compound the remaining like 6.75 points. So yeah, so that pushes it way over the scale. But yeah, no, this is a G1er's delight. Like if somebody now were to say, "Hey Mike, you've been watching this TFA for a few, and it sounds like you really like it, and it sounds like there's stuff for you, but I don't know if I want to watch a 90-minute mini movie." Well, first I would say, get your life right. It's very brisk, but I would steer them towards this. I think this makes a really good on-ramp to hook in folks that might be interested and open-minded for a different take, because it is a different take. Again, it's a wildly different origin of the Dinobots, but even so, it's still reverential to the source material, and it's loaded with Easter eggs. This is a fantastic episode. This is the bar to clear. This is my favorite episode of the run so far. Awesome. really enjoyed this episode quite a lot. And it moves the needle on so much that we've already seen in the previous episode. So like, not only is it fan service, but it moves the plot along. All of this intrigue with Isaac Sumdac and Megatron, and those machinations. Who is controlling who, and now this new bit where like the Autobots have secrets of their own, and we're kind of getting into some like weird morally gray stuff, and even some of the bigger existential stuff of like, how do we define life? And it's this episode crams a lot into 23 minutes. It's so much. There's a reason why it took us an hour and a half to talk about a 23-minute episode.
Right. Yeah, well, I was going to ask along with, you kind of talked about it earlier, but how does this stack up for you as a Dinobot origin story in the original one and all the other versions of, how they've kind of shoehorned Dinobots into the continuities over the years? How does this one stack up for you? Is it pretty good?
Yeah, it's very good. In fact, this is I haven't really thought about Dinobot origins for a while, but off the top of my head, this is easily my favorite, because it's not specifically to just sell new toys, and so like the G1 introduction feels very crass. And likewise, I like that there's something inherent about the Dinobots being young characters or like new to life that's always appealed to me. I can't really explain why. So like, for example, the live action counterparts, they're ancient Cybertronians, which on one hand kind of makes sense because they're dinosaurs, they're ancient beings. I like that as well, but I like this better because it more ties into the current machinations of the show, because basically these are they're kind of an accident in a way, because it starts off as Megatron's plot to build a new body for himself, but then the Allspark, through its own agenda, sees something as well. So it's the confluence of a couple different things going on specifically in the TFA plot that I feel it's more important to the fabric of the narrative of this show, as opposed to just introducing new characters. You know what I mean? It's like it feels elemental.
Right. Yeah, I guess to think of it like the Dinobots in this episode are sort of like beta test for Megatron's body, similar to how like General Grievous was sort of the prototype for Darth Vader.
Darth Vader, yeah,
so,
absolutely.
yeah, I can see that. That's really interesting. I also wanted to ask you: who is your favorite Dinobot, and is that Dinobot in this episode?
I don't gravitate to the Dinobots as much as a lot of my other friends. I like them fine, but if I had a favorite, it would be Grimlock, because he, more than anybody, and especially typified in this episode, he always gets the best lines. The other Dinobots are a little lean on personality. Like, I don't think it really goes beyond what Megatron said in SOS Dinobots. It's like, Grimlock is arrogant, Slag is violent, and Sludge is stupid. It doesn't really go beyond that. Even in season 3 of G1, when they kind of become more infantilized, and you see some of that in the movie as well. Like, they just kind of become, comic relief and kind of dopey. But I still like. I like Grimlock's attitude, even when he's, portrayed in an infantile kind of way. Even like, me Grimlock, not Kisser, me King. It's like even that stuff is as silly as it is. It's still true to his character. I don't know anything about the other Dinobots. They just like Snarl, for example. Well, not this Snarl, but like whatever the other dinosaur is, it's like, I don't know what his deal. I don't know anything about him. He just has like a mean sounding voice and just really not a whole lot of personality. And I'm just talking animation. I know they get fleshed out in the comics quite a bit, but
yeah.
But yeah, no, I
like to ask that because I think the Dinobots themselves are a plot point that's difficult. I think that's the real challenge of whatever new Transformer show is on the air, is how are we going to work the Dinobots in believably, how the different ways to do it. I mean, the video games, they were sort of like, the implication was, Shockwave looked into all the other histories and took a little samplings of what he liked on Earth, and that's why the Dinobots existed in dinosaur form before they came. Like, there's all these different ways to do it. So it's really, I think it's really cool how this show worked that in. My favorite version of Grimlock is the War Within. I don't know if you've actually read the War Within comic.
Oh yeah,
French Kiss. That's my favorite version of Grimlock, hands down.
He is pretty cool, and for me, and it's not even so much his personality, which it's terrific in that, because it's now remind me, does he speak normally in that, or is he still me Grimlock? I don't remember.
It's a little more towards normally, but there is some level of gruntness.
Yeah, and it's more just because he's like brusque. Because I think he's shown to be strategic and intelligent. Like, he's kind of more like a military commander in that kind of thing. I love that.
He's more like Kevin in that episode of The Office when he wanted to use fewer words.
Yes.
Why say long word when few word do trick?
Yeah. Well, oh man. And that, God damn it, that almost plays too, because like he is a no nonsense soldier in that continuity. That actually, I mean, we're doing jokes here, but that actually totally plays. Right. I love that. But I was
one, if you want to talk about great Optimus and Grimlock relationships, that comic has also maybe the best. I think that's also why I really like it.
I got to go back and read that, because like, I mean, I was like everybody else my age, I was in on Dreamwave all the way. Like I bought like all the covers and all that stuff. I mean, I pushed my chips in early. Like I bought like everything. I mean, like people like me are the reason why they had such a meteoric rise so quickly, because like everything they put out, I mean, I'm buying like multiple copies and like giving them to people and all that other stuff. And I remember I was the same way with War Within. I was like, oh my God. So we're getting like new stories that's like pre-Earth War type of stuff. But really, and I buried the lead too deeply at this point, but like that's a top tier Grimlock for me as well, because one, the alt mode, where, I mean, again, armored tank, perfect.
So cool.
Perfect.
So cool.
I mean, that's amazing. And it looks, like it should. You know what I mean? It's like you still, even as a tank, it still strikes the silhouette as Grimlock, as weird as that sounds.
Yeah.
It's like he's still very recognizable as Grimlock. But for me, the thing that puts that design into the top tier is the teeth. The teeth in the sides of his face mask. I mean, I just remember seeing that, like, stop the press. What is that? And
it's not just the teeth in the side of the mask. It's also sort of like a muzzle, almost like a Hannibal Lecter, like holding back the bite. Like everything about that design is so smart.
Yeah. And still with like the giant visor, you know, so there's a expressionlessness to it. So it's like, you know, those might be his real teeth. They might not. It might be just like a mask or a muzzle or whatever. But either way, it is very symbolic of Grimlock's aloof, arrogant, violent nature.
Totally.
Which I think is so cool. So cool.
Yes. Oh, good.
Damn it. Now I gotta go reread War Within, because that's
annually. I do that at least once a year. I love that. I got my omnibus, so I'll have to go check that out.
Omnibus. Get on the omnibus. All right. Well, before we pack up, I have a couple bits of listener feedback I would like to share. First, our good friend Jobot at TFJobot1 out on Twitter. This dude, in addition to being like one of the most wholesome, positive folks in Transformers fandom and on Twitter.com, he shares a lot of terrific action figure photography and all kinds of other like cool stuff. But like, he must have. I don't know what maybe when we have him on the show, we can ask him more about this, but like, he's been on a TFA kick recently, like right around the time that we launched.
Yeah.
And he's been sharing no shortage of gold and really cool, like, you know, style sheets, reference sheets, figure prototypes, all kinds of cool stuff. So it's like he was posting more stuff than I could retweet and keep up with, because it's like, oh my God, it's all so good. It's all so good. So I had tweeted from the Two Mikes Two Furious Twitter account, hey man, if you're any kind of fan of TFA and you're not following Jobot, you're really doing yourself a disservice.
Totally.
So he wrote us back and said, thanks, Mikes. I love that we're collectively Mikes now.
Right.
Thanks, Mikes. That's features, plural.
Yeah.
The podcast definitely all sparked my interest to go back and look through the animated material I had. It's fun to find stuff like this animated Swindle art by the amazing Josh Burcham, and it is a terrific Josh Burcham animated Swindle piece. I can't wait to meet Swindle. I'm ready. I'm really excited.
Yeah, I won't get into it, but Swindle in this show friggin' rocks. I'll put it in my best kept in fan zone. This guy friggin' rocks. Okay.
So good.
And drinking old duels.
with the gray hot dog with the mayonnaise. Gross. And we'll close out with a couple iTunes reviews. We got a couple reviews on Apple Podcasts, and if you want to leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, we'll read it on the air, like this one from Argonus Prime, who is of the Autopod Decepticast fan base. So we're getting a little bit of bleed over and a little bit of crossover, which is terrific.
We're stealing their listeners like we've always wanted.
Yes, well, you know, it's competition after
yes, of
all.
course.
You know, that kind of thing. See the latest Patreon bonus episode of APDC for what I'm talking about with regards to competition legislation. No, I just very, very briefly, I had somebody on my page on Mike Seibert Radio say like, well, hey, you know, a Transformers YouTuber as well said like, oh, hey, I don't generally check out the competition, but you know, good interview, you know, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Just real passive aggressive nonsense. But anyway, so it's become a little bit of a spicy meme over in the APDC community when I'm on with those guys. It's like, oh, hey, well, you know, it's not like we're being the competition or anything. So Anyway, that's a little primer on that. But anyhow, Argonus Prime sent us a terrific review, 5 stars. Hooked. Can't wait for the rest of the adventure. I know it's only the first episode, Well, we got a couple more now, but I am hooked and on board for this adventure. Animated was a huge part of my childhood, and love how Mike Seibert is experiencing the watch through for the first time, and Michael Andrews is trying not to spoil everything.
Right.
Which, I mean, folks really seem to be digging on that dynamic and that vibe where it's like, you know, if we did this as video, they would probably see you being like, oh.
I know, just outside of my camera range is like the table that I'm flipping and like gripping the edge of and chipping off the particle board. I can't see it anymore.
Well, and I'm sure some of it is like, oh, you're so right, and you don't even know it yet.
Yeah.
You know, that kind of stuff. It's like it's wild. So this last iTunes review we got from Two Man War, which I know is my buddy Aaron, one of the hosts of Autopod Decepticast, the aforementioned APDC.
Nice.
And incidentally, if you like our show, you have to be listening to their show, whether you like G1 or not. It's a lot of Gen X relationship stuff. It's just three dudes, lifelong friends, celebrating friendship and transforming robots.
Well, I can safely say this show wouldn't exist without their show. So they really brought us all together. So
you're right, and you know, we haven't mentioned that in a while. You know, we talked about it very early on, but yeah, I mean, this is kind of like a weird spiritual spinoff in a way of their show, because that's I mean, really, that's how you and I got connected.
Yeah,
I would think, because I don't know if we. Yeah, I mean,
we were just both fans of that show, that podcasting backgrounds that started chatting.
Yep. So really, Autopod Decepticast is the well of all sparks for a great many things. But anyway, so Aaron writes, great conversational dynamic, ! These two dudes have a great rapport. Being not too familiar with the animated series myself, it is really fun to follow along with Mike as Michael schools him on the series and all the cool G1 Easter eggs contained within.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, it's terrific feedback. And really, the reason why I'm sharing all this listener feedback is not to, you know, engage in circle jerking and all that, but really just to show appreciation for folks that took the time to write something nice to us. It really means awesome. The world. And one of the things we really want to do with this podcast is encourage a vibrant community. So, you know, listen at the end of the episode for how to hit us up on social medias and voicemails and all that other stuff. And I love this stuff. I love saying people's names on the radio or podcasts or whatever.
Yeah. Well, when we were first talking about this show, I remember saying, you know, one of the things I really want it to be like is to kind of feel like an old radio show. I really want to have that sort of like, go ahead, caller kind of a feel to it of like
Tulsa.
Yeah. You're on. We're both Larry King here.
Yeah, right. Too Larry, too furious.
Yeah. But no, that's great. I appreciate the feedback. I'm a little disappointed Aaron didn't start his review with "Hey shit boxes," but I mean, surprised me. But so thank you, appreciate it.
Well, I'm sure at some point. Well, actually, what we need to do is we need to reignite the feud between the MSRP and the Michael Andrews waging a two-man war against the APDC. So we need a sequel to that iconic diss track Mic Drop, which you can hear at the end of episode 2, I think is where I put it. It was whichever one of our, it was either 1 or 2, but when we were talking about APDC, and so actually I went back to their episode, clipped that out, and like Aaron did this whole diss track about like, hey, all you podcasters and you writers, you think you got beef with the APDC, and yeah, I mean, it's terrific.
We just need to make that our intro music. Actually, I think I love that.
Oh my God.
I loved that rap.
I like so many Mike, because you are Mike. You are Mike.
Yeah.
When you listen to Two Mikes Too Furious, you are Mike. I was gonna say anything else before we get out of here, but do you have a poetic reading for us to send people onto the good night before we fade away?
Yes, the preview haiku. All right, here we go. Chests flip to old guts. Bots get fast and furious. The pink car returns.
Oh man, I cannot wait. We're on a roll.
I'm really excited for this next episode. One of my easily top 5 episodes of this show.
Wow. So like, but of this show of TFA,
Yeah,
right?
yes.
You know, so like not like all a Transformers.
Ooh, well, it's very high up there in that list too. It's really good.
That's awesome. Well, you'll have to stick around for that in the future. I guess until then, until Hauler 1, my name is Mike Seibert.
I'm Michael Andrews.
And we'll see you somewhere around the way over the rainbow. I can't not say make good choices. I have to tell these people to make good choices. Yeah. Pizza.
Want to be a guest on the show? Send us an email to mikes2furious@gmail.com. Interact with us on social media. You can follow 2 Mikes 2 Furious on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at 2 Mikes 2 Furious. And raise your voice. Leave us a voicemail message at 260-274-MIKE. Again, that's 260-274-6453.
You are Mike. You are Mike. You are Mike. 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 So many Mike. So many Mike. So many Mike. So many Mike. Hey! Mike!
And so yeah, I see what I did in my notes. I got so excited.
You got chocolate on him is what happened. You just
Yes.